Hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Big 12 Podcast. Today it is the 3rd of October, 2022, and on today's show, some coaching openings. Could they impact the Big 12? Wisconsin and Colorado are both open now. Power 5 jobs continue to become open. Talk about how these two in particular could affect Big 12 coaches and or coordinators right now. That's coming up on today's show.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Once again, Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Big 12 Podcast. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Please continue to do that. We're on that push for 2,300 subs. Right now, we're about 50 away. So help us make that 2,300 subscribers here. Gunning for that by the end of the week. Also want to thank our sponsors today, SimpliSafe, for sponsoring the show. More on them later. But make sure you guys subscribe. Check out SimpliSafe. All of those things. All right, glasses on, game time. So the coaching firings are just coming earlier and earlier now. We saw this trend affect the Big 12 last year. We saw TCU part ways with Gary Patterson. We saw Matt Wells get fired at Texas Tech. And so right now, the one that we're tracking in the Big 12, at least for right now, is the shirt that I'm wearing. It is West Virginia, right? The one thing that would preclude them from doing that is the buyout. Neil Brown would be owed a lot of money, north of like $15 million, I think is what we're talking about right now. And so that feels like a firing, and we never know with these things. It could change very quickly, but a firing is not necessarily in the cards right now for the Big 12 Conference. It has been the order of the day elsewhere. Ironically enough, the SEC, where it's kind of the nuttiest conference, has not seen it yet. But we have seen Power 5 jobs such as Arizona State, Nebraska, Colorado, Wisconsin, and Georgia Tech are all open. So I think it's 5, right? Nebraska was first. We saw Arizona State. We saw Georgia Tech. We saw Colorado. We've seen Wisconsin. So I would say out of those, 4 of those were not surprising. Nebraska, not surprising. Georgia Tech, not surprising. Colorado, not surprising. Arizona State, not surprising. Wisconsin was surprising. That's the big one. And I think that's where we should start. So Paul Chryst gets fired at Wisconsin. They're off to a 2-3 start. They have lost games against Ohio State by 1 million. They first lost to Wazoo at home 17-14, which actually it's a game that Wisconsin, as we know, Wisconsin should win, right? But Wazoo actually might be pretty decent this year, right? They should have beaten Oregon. I can't believe they lost that game and the way they did. The backdoor was crazy. And then, the Wazoo's like, but they've been pretty good. That's the one loss that we're all looking at, and they'll play USC this week. So I think they could be pretty decent, and we'll see how they do in that game. Besides the point, they lose the game to Ohio State by 1 million, and then they lose to Illinois in a pretty lopsided game. And so now you think about, all right, who should Wisconsin football hire? Well, they have promoted Jim Leonhard, their defensive coordinator, to head coach, right? That is where they have decided to go for the time being. It seems like Jim Leonhard is kind of the leader in the clubhouse to get this job. That's what it feels like. It feels like the power brokers, and check out also Locked On Badgers for more on this if you guys are super interested, but for that perspective. But it seems like they really want Jim Leonhard to be the guy that's going to coach this team. He's a defensive coordinator. He played at Wisconsin. He's pretty well known in a time in the NFL. I mean, he spent a long time in the NFL. He's only 39 years old. So it feels like this is an audition, and I'm actually not sure how well he has to perform to get the job. Let's see what the rest of their schedule is, just for the sake of the exercise here, because you think that, hey, look, it's Wisconsin. Now, I thought Bud Elliott made a really good point today about these jobs in the Big Ten West could become less attractive once they go to non-divisional scheduling in the Big Ten, because you aren't playing Illinois and Iowa. Like, your toughest game is not Iowa the entire time, right? That is not where you're doing. I was checking the standings before I came on today to look at just like, where things are. Illinois, Northwestern, Purdue, Minnesota, Nebraska, Iowa, Wisconsin. I mean, try to find good teams this year out of that group. Like Illinois 4-1, probably should be 5-0. Think they're pretty decent. Purdue is close to being a really good football team. And the weird lost Syracuse and almost beat Penn State. Minnesota, we thought was good, but they just got absolutely hammered in their last game. 20-10 was a loss to Purdue, but like they were horrible in that game. I think it was 3 interceptions for Tanner Morgan. I mean, like just a really awful performance. Not hammered, but they sucked. Nebraska, we know they're not very good. Iowa's offense is god awful, and Wisconsin is 2-3. Once you separate that out, and they've got to go to the top teams and see all of this. I mean, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State are the 3 schools, and throw in Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, the big 3 schools there. Toss in some Michigan State. Maryland's pretty average. Indiana, Rutgers are also there too. But once you start mixing in those 4 other schools into your schedule more often, then you are going to lose probably a bit more. So I think Wisconsin is making this move right now for that. They've got Northwestern. They're at Michigan State. They've got Purdue at home. They've got Maryland at home. They're at Iowa. They've got Nebraska, Minnesota. So it's not the hardest schedule in the world the rest of the way. I'm kind of curious what Jim Leonhard has to do to get this thing to a point where he could keep his job. They're 0-2 in the Big Ten West. I mean, nobody's out of it yet in that division. They look pretty bad, but like, would it shock me if they won out the rest of the way? They went 9-3, and we're talking about, Wisconsin, here they are. I mean, it'd be surprising, but like that division's really bad. So it's kind of up for grabs at this point in time. Sure, Illinois getting one over them in the win column is bad, but Illinois has already got a loss in conference to Indiana. I know it's not somebody in the division, but there it is. So they got a pretty good shot. But I will say this, for as good as that Nebraska situation looks, and it looks good because the amount of money that they're going to have, this job looks just as appealing, if not more so. I would rather be coaching at Wisconsin at Madison than Lincoln, Nebraska. I 110% would. And I think it'd be silly to think that they won't target, if Jim Leonhard's not the guy, or at least, they're probably doing their due diligence. They want the Jim Leonhard thing to work out, but you got to make some contacts across the board. If you're looking towards the Big 12, and I think they should, who would you be looking at? Lance Leipold, Dave Aranda, maybe Chris Kleiman, definitely Matt Campbell. The guys that we heard brought up for the Nebraska job should be brought up for the Wisconsin job. Who do I think is the best one out of all of them? The best fit maybe out of all of them? Well, there's one coach in the Big 12 who coached at a place with Wisconsin in the part of it. That is Lance Leipold at Wisconsin Whitewater, one of the great coaches in the history of lower division, of non-divisional one football. Lance Leipold won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 national titles at Wisconsin Whitewater from 2007 to 2014. They went 7-3 in the bad year, and they went 13-2 and lost the title in the other year. He did not win at all in Division III. Then goes on to Buffalo, and what do? They have so much success there. He wins 10 games there, 10-8, 6-10, 8, 6-8, and 6 in the last season that he had, the last 4 seasons. So 4 straight, at least 6-win seasons there. And then now in 17 games at Kansas, he's got this team at 5-0, and they're ranked. The one thing we know for sure is the bag is going to be dropped for Lance Leipold. It's just a matter of by who. Is it going to be Kansas? Is it going to be Nebraska? Is it going to be Wisconsin? Somebody's got to drop the bag. Now, look, Kansas fans, you might be thinking I'm not giving you all enough credit. I've been giving you guys a ton of credit on this show throughout the course of the weeks that we've seen KU play. I bet the KU over on the win total. I think Travis Goff is fully aware of the situation. I think everybody involved at KU is fully aware of the situation. And I think for them, this could be a really positive thing, because not only will this force them to invest in their coach, but they have to invest in their facilities. And that is something that we all know. That stadium badly needs a facelift. Their football facility is not intimately familiar with them, but I've been by the football stadium when I was in Lawrence. That thing definitely needs a facelift for sure. You're just seeing it with like all the extra stuff they're having to bring in for these big games. And I think a lot of the times that stuff comes. So if Lance Leipold's going to stay there, he's going to ask money for assistant coaches. He's going to ask money for more for the facilities. He's going to ask for more money for the stadium. That's not, or at least I think I would if I were him. That's not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. I think, and you know, like if you're a KU fan, I'd tell you this, like there hasn't been a reason to invest in football, and your coach is giving you a reason to invest in football, because in less than 17 games, he's got a 5-0 team, and you beat a variety of teams in the league in a variety of ways, and you're getting really good players and developing talent, and you've got a stud backfield, you got a stud quarterback, you got playmakers on the defense. I mean, they're getting guys to come to Lawrence, Kansas. It's possible to get them there, develop them, and get a good team. We're seeing it right now at this point in time. They've got a chance. This program's got a chance. So if I'm KU, I'm making that investment in Lance Leipold. I'm making that investment in facilities. And hell, even if we lose Lance Leipold, I'm still making that investment because I know it's possible. I know we know now what is possible. And honestly, I mean, actually, I'm not even sure it's fair, because we're not sure what's all the way possible right now at KU. We've seen it in the past, right? Mark Mangino, and we saw success, but like what is possible for this group, for modern day Kansas football? They're scratching the surface right now, they hope, in Lawrence, Kansas. So I think that is something to watch. He'd be the number one guy. Matt Campbell obviously has been listed for a lot of jobs. This is another really good job in that part of the country. You got to wonder, though, is the shine wearing off Matt Campbell? I don't think it should, but it could be because of the performance last 2 seasons of the teams right now. I think this would be I think that would be another place that they would definitely make the call and they could go. The other one is Dave Aranda, but we know other big dogs have knocked on the door of Dave Aranda, and we know that he is very content at Baylor. But this is, and there is, you know, some talk about LSU. Well, Wisconsin's another place where he had a lot of success and is very, very, very familiar with it. I tend to believe that he's staying at Baylor. That's just my belief right now. But I think Nebraska wants to make that call. I think Wisconsin, if things don't go well with Jim Leonhard, might make that call. And they might say, oh, Jim Leonhard is a defensive coach. They want to go that route, you know, kind of consecutively, even though he's an interim coach. I'm not sure. But those names, the Big 12, those are ones I would definitely look for. If you want former Big 12, Tom Herman, then they make that call. I mean, I don't think they would, but it's been somebody that's been listed. Dan Mullen obviously has been listed. Urban Meyer has been listed. So I would not necessarily go the direction of those guys, former coaches, retreads. I don't think that you go Tom Herman's direction, but that's just something that's been listed out there. Herman's maybe more applicable to our second job, and we'll do that in a second. But look, Jim Leonhard, the guy to beat right now. It's his job to lose, it feels like, right now in Madison, Wisconsin. So got to look at those Big 12 candidates for sure. And guys, I don't take any joy in doing this, but it's worth talking about because look, the financials for the Big 12 are not going to be anywhere near what the financials are for the Big 10 conference. That's why Wisconsin and Nebraska can offer something that these Big 12 schools cannot offer to scale. Maybe they can make the facilities better. They can upgrade them, all these things, but to scale, not to the scale of the Big 10, because the amount of investment they're going to be able to put in off that television contract is going to be quite sufficient. All right, today's show is brought to you by SimpliSafe. Guys, it's the best way to keep your home protected right now. It's better than a dog. It's better than whatever else. You know, having neighbors watch out for you guys. They've got all kinds of packages they offer. You can customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplisafe.com/lockedoncollege. That's simplisafe.com/lockedoncollege to save 20% on your SimpliSafe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Once again, visit simplisafe.com/lockedoncollege. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. All right, job number 2, Karl Dorrell is out at Colorado. Now, this job is interesting for a variety of reasons. I misspelled his name. It's a K, not a C. So I'll fix that really fast. But this job is interesting for the Big 12 fans for a variety of reasons. Karl Dorrell, there you go. I didn't put out in there, but you all see what it is now. Karl Dorrell out at Colorado. This job is interesting for the variety of reasons, because number one, it could become a Big 12 job. That is the interesting part about this. There has been so much talk about conference realignment. They have got to get themselves back in shape here. They don't have to do it quickly, but they have to. They suffered from one of the larger exoduses that you will ever see in the portal. I think they lost 22 guys in the portal last year. And for Carl Durrell, he did not do a good enough job finding, other players to take that spot. They're bad at quarterback. They're really just bad all over the place. But I think there is a lot of talk about, hey, who could be guys that they look at that could help them kind of get back to this place. I think it's more, here's the couple routes they could go. Number one, they could go, I think the best chance at a current head coach is like the retread route. I think they'd have to go with, not current head coach, but like guys we know as head coaches, like a Dan Mullen, right? Dan Mullen is out there. If you want Big 12 connections, Tom Herman is somebody they should probably look at. I think he's kind of waiting in the weeds right there for an opportunity. Matt Rule is another guy I think you're going to begin to see get mentioned. Now, does he have aspirations maybe for a better job? I think that is possible. Current head coaches, I think Jeff Traylor is somebody they should consider at a UTSA. That's somebody that I think a Big 12's, he just feels like it's destined to be a Big 12 coach, right? But at this moment in time, that's not going to happen because, what Big 12 Texas job is going to open? TCU just hired, Texas Tech just hired, Baylor's in good shape, right? Maybe Houston. I don't know how bad that thing. I think Dana's going to get some more time there. That thing's not going very well this season, but still, you're seeing the point that I'm making is I don't think Jeff Traylor is destined for a Big 12 job in the state of Texas anytime soon. If he's looking to make that jump, it's possible. And once again, any successful Colorado program probably is going to involve recruiting Texas very well. It's kind of just part of the job. Jonathan Smith, I don't think would jump from Oregon State. You're talking about guys who are current head coaches, and then you probably go maybe Troy Calhoun at Air Force is somebody who's interesting. Maybe that be somebody that considers it, but there are a lot of places. Eric Bieniemy is somebody that's getting mentioned. I think Jeff Grimes, you could chuck his name into the group there if you wanted a direct Big 12 tie, but I've got my eye on this job mostly because I think there is a good chance that it could become a Big 12 job, right? That is kind of what we're looking at. It's the same thing with Arizona State, right? If you're Arizona State, you've got access to California. There are big shifts in terms of demographics between California and Arizona, right? We're seeing a lot of really good players now come out of Arizona. We've seen it with Brock Purdy. We've seen it, a guy like Nico Marchiol. It's just happening a lot more now. You're seeing guys come out of the state of Arizona due to population shifts, especially a lot of people moving out of California. So you've got the access to California. You've got Arizona. Obviously, it's in state. I think Jeff Traylor would be somebody who'd be good at Arizona State because he's got the Texas link. So if he can kind of make that banana peel almost, right, from Texas to Arizona, and I know New Mexico's obviously involved there too. It's across that. But if he can just make that banana peel happen and recruit pretty well in that area there, that could be a really good job. And obviously he's set up, and that's another job that we're talking about becoming a future Big 12 job potentially. So I think I'm in this coaching search. Obviously we have to look. This is the thing about the conference now becoming more national, the Big 12 conference becoming more national. We're looking at these Big 10 jobs because, okay, there's a good chance that they could actually poach active. There's a good chance. There is a chance that they could poach active Big 12 coaches. Matt Campbell, Chris Kleiman, Lance Leipold, all on the table. In my opinion, they should be on the table for those schools, for Nebraska and for Wisconsin. For Colorado and Arizona State, they could hire Big 12 guys. Maybe they had the foresight that, hey, we're going to join the Big 12 conference. But also, I think out of the options that are being present, they're going to get an upgrade. I think Colorado's in a good space to maybe fall backwards into a pretty good coach. Also, I'm hearing former Missouri defensive coordinator and current Illinois defensive coordinator Ryan Walters is somebody people are mentioning because the current AD, I think it's Rick George is his name, is an Illinois guy. And so Ryan Walters done a great job as a young defensive coordinator. Maybe he could get the call up, but watch those 2 jobs because those could become Big 12 jobs. And I think, that with that in mind, maybe somebody with Big 12 experience could be tossed around trying to get those. So we gotta watch that. And guys, this market is not done, right? I mean, that Auburn job is just waiting. That shoe is waiting to drop, right? If things go really south at Missouri, I think that shoe could drop here as well. So we're not done, but you're seeing the emphasis more and more on getting the deed done, doing that firing a bit earlier because of where we are with the early signing period and also the changing dynamics in college football. You kind of want to be first to this. You don't want to be the last at the altar. And for a place like Colorado, they've been through so much transition as of late. I think it's important for them to get this thing done faster, sooner rather than later. Obviously, take your time with the search, but this was the right time to make that call. All right, one more word from our sponsors, then we'll get out of here. Today's show is brought to you by Built Bar. Go to Built.com today. That's Built.com. If you've not tried the Built Puffs yet, what in the heck are you doing? They are delicious. They are good. They are not bad for you at all. Got 160 calories and a whopping 15 grams of protein in them. So check them out now. Go to Built.com today. It's Built.com. Promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15, LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com today. All right. Thank you so much for watching, my friends. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Let us know your thoughts. Will any of these schools poach Big 12 coaches or coordinators for their jobs? Want to know your thoughts in the comment section below. Till next time, my friends, as always, stay safe.